Reporter Choi Jin-Seok of KBS to talk about how fishing villages are consumed. The floor is yours. Please welcome him with a big hand. Good afternoon, everyone. I work in KBS Changwon. My name is Choi Jin-Seok. So the title of my presentation is How Are Fishing Villages Consumed? And to elaborate on my title, I want to talk about how the fishing villages are covered by the media. The reason why I am here is early this year, I started to be covering the maritime economy, and I found out that in the island called Chudo, they are famous for the cube snailfish, but the cube snailfish are no longer caught in this island called Chudo. So I was writing articles about this, and when I went to Chudo and interviewed people there said, "Why are you just talking about cube snailfish? The sea is empty. We can't catch anything." So that's the moment when I thought I should try to cover the fishing village from a different perspective. That's why I wrote these featured articles. And the title of my article was the fishing villages that are forefront of extinction. You can see here that the fishes are no longer caught at big amounts in this area. And I learned that my approach of covering the story was different. So I shifted my focus and wrote 5 different articles on this fishing villages that were going extinct. And I wrote articles on how these experience and recreation fishing villages were going out of plan. And then I realized I should have actually covered the statistics on how these fishing villages were going away. So I decided to create a documentary that finds out the cause and the current state of the fishing villages. So I'm in the process of making this documentary, and the title of my documentary is At the Forefront of Extinction, Fishing Villages Are Vanishing, and I'm still in the process of editing my documentary. So before I go into my presentation, I want to first talk about how the fishing villages are covered by the media. So let's see a short clip of how they are reported.
마치고 일제히 조업에 나섰습니다. 은빛 만선을 꿈꾸며 출어한 배에 최진석 기자가 함께 탔습니다.
청정해역을 자랑하는 남해의 사량도 앞바다. 멸치잡이 배들이 무리 지어 바다 곳곳을 돌아다닙니다. 멸치 탐색이 끝나자 어선 2척이 길이 700m의 그물을 양쪽으로 펼쳐 멸치떼를 몰아넣습니다. 30분 뒤 끌어올린 그물 안은 은빛 멸치떼들로 가득합니다. 무게가 700kg이 넘습니다. 이렇게 잡힌 그물 속 멸치들은 곧바로 진공 펌프를 통해 바로 옆 가공선으로 옮겨집니다. 멸치는 물 밖으로 나오면 바로 죽기 때문에 이렇게 건져 올리자마자 펄펄 끓는 소금물에 삶습니다.
So as you saw from the short clip, this is nothing new to the fishermen. They go to catch anchovies and they talk about how these anchovies are caught and how much anchovies are caught, whether the catch was big or small. So from the perspective of fishermen, this is nothing new. This is not even news. But every year the news covers the story on how the fishes are caught. So every year the story is the same. And that was my first report on catching anchovies, so I did not see that there was any problem on how I was covering the story. And all of my senior reporters said, go to the seaside, do some report, and enjoy the great seafood on the local area. So I thought everything was great in the fishing villages. But now I wanted to find out when the problem started. So let's see another video clip.
울릉도가 활기를 되찾고 있습니다. 어민들의 주 수입원인 오징어잡이가 한창입니다. 복창현 기자가 다녀왔습니다.
해가 진 뒤 울릉도 앞바다는 불야성입니다. 오징어잡이 어선들이 밝힌 불빛, 이른바 어화입니다. 미끼를 문 오징어들이 물을 뿜으며 올라옵니다. 모처럼의 만선으로 태풍 피해로 멍들었던 어민들의 마음도 한결 가볍습니다.
많이 잡히면 좋지요. 가격이 조금 다운되더라도
지난 태풍의 영향으로 울릉도에선 오징어 잡이가 예년보다 20일가량 늦어졌습니다.
쉴 새 없이 돌아가는 요란한 기계형 속에 오징어 잡이 작업은 밤새 계속되고 있습니다.
So as you can see from this clip, it's the same exact news, but a different type of fish. So it's the same format, same coverage. But as I became a reporter in charge of maritime economy, I tried to approach this topic from a different perspective. So I studied a lot about fishing villages, wrote articles, and now I'm creating a documentary. And in the process of making this documentary, I traveled nationwide, and I found one unique common thing. I talked to about 20 fishermen, and about 70% of them said they've already had exposure to media. They were interviewed in the past. So this is a show that was released, I think, less than 30 days ago. It's about Churo, which is a best reaching ground. So it's a show that covered how this beautiful island Churo with the best fishing ground was very satisfactory to the local citizens. So it's a very short clip. You can see the subtitles that the person who's being interviewed is so happy. He says, I'm catching a lot of fish, I'm very satisfied. And I went there not on the same day, but on different day. I've been to Churo for 4 times, and every time the news that I covered was on water scarcity. But at the same time, when I was covering about the water scarcity, he was saying that he was satisfied with his catch. So there was a discrepancy, because to me, he said there's not much water, there's this water scarcity problem, but in another show, he said he was satisfied. So I was really surprised at how the interviews turned out to be different. So let's take a look at how he was interviewed by a different reporter and by me.
물이 개서 이 통에다가 물로 받아놓고 이래가 지금 쓰고 있어요. 일단 물로 받아놓고 이렇게 끓여가고 있어요.
일일이 다 끓여서 쓰셔야 돼요.
예, 이래야 끓이가 묻고 우리가 또 쓰기도 하고. 물이 지금 오물이 찌꺼리 엄청 많아. 이 어쩔 수가 없어. 이 물이 귀하다 보니까 먼지가 들어가고 이래갖고 지금 쓰고 있어요. 이래 바다 안 쓰면 시내 사람들은 수도를 쓰는데 우리들은 수도를 할 수가 없어.
네, 이렇게 지금 이제
So you can see here that he is trying to clean the fish that he caught on that day, but you might have noticed the clothes that he's wearing is the same as the previous interview. So he's wearing the same shirt because he could not wash it. There was not much water. So he takes water from the water tank, and you see here there's this small mosquito babies, and he had to boil the water to wash the flounder he caught, to treat us with that flounder that he caught, and he's catching the rain to actually use as water due to water scarcity. And I'm pretty sure that the other team saw this current state, but they only covered the beautiful side of the island. So I thought that this was not right. I thought this was really surprising. And that's why I tried to discover these problems of these islands. And if you see the interview of the show called Youngcha, Fish Fishing Fisher, it's different.
고향을 찾아왔는데 아름답게 살라고 노년에 65살까지 내가 요 들 때 55이라. 그러면 나만키 편하게 아름답게 살라고 왔는데 아름다운 섬이 아니고 말하자면 폐허되는 섬이라고 봐야 돼. 사람이 물이 없으면 아무것도 안 됩니다, 지금. 물이 인생을 좌우하고 모든 사람을 살리고 지우하는 물이 없으면 안 되는데 물 자체가 없다 보니까 여기서 지금 나도 지금 살기가 싫어가지고 나도 지금 밖을 나가려고 하고 있어요. 생각을 이 조시로 계속된다면.
So it's a completely different story from the previous interview of another person. So the TV shows used to only show the good side of the oceans and the fishing villages. That's sort of the tradition and the conventional way. And I think this is really shocking because we went to the same island around the same time, but the interviewees respond in a different manner. I don't know how many of you went to a fishing village, but if you talk to those local people, they tell you, oh, I was on that 6 o'clock My Home show. They only talk about the good things of the island. So many of them only talk about the good things about the island that they live in. So I realized media only illustrates the beautiful side, the good sides of the islands and the fishing village. They try to fit these fishing villages to the framework that they want to show. Let's take a look at the example of Jukbangnyeom. These are the couple who live in the Jukbangnyeom area. And they also had an interview, and you can find this clip on YouTube. And the local fishermen say that this is a place where we can catch anchovies all the time. We're always looking forward to the next year because there's so much anchovies. So anchovies are so precious. And the interview is about how they catch the anchovies. It's a very general story. But I think about 1 or 2 months ago, when I visited that same exact place, I found that this interview was quite interesting because they were working with their son, and they said to me that they do not want their son to be working as a fisherman in the future. That's an interview that I made.
안 하고 만약에 죽방염 이것만 하면은 생계 유지가 될까요?
농업 안 하고 농사도 안 짓고 죽방염 한다. 아예 저 죽방염은 내놓고 저 공사장에 가서 삽질이 났습니다.
So although that this is a fish tank full of anchovies, when I said, can you speak frankly? And he said, you know what, I can't do this bamboo fishing anymore. Jukbangnyeom, this way of fishing is no longer sustainable. He said it's actually better to work in a factory. That's why he actually does run a farm and fishing at the same time. He can't make the ends meet just by bamboo fishing. When I found out why this was so, it's because of climate change, ocean pollution, and you can no longer catch anchovies in the near seashores. And you see these newer types of fish. You can't even know these tropical fish, what they are. So this specific fisherman said that he needs to give up bamboo fishing. The only thing he can do is maybe make this a tourist attraction because now you cannot make your ends meet just by catching anchovies. So all of this positive, good news about fishing villages are covered a lot by the media. And maybe it might be helpful to these fishermen, but if you look at the other side, the flip side of the story, there are problems that needs to be reported as well. That's why I'm making the documentary on the problems of the fishing villages. The fishing village that you see on media are these beautiful sceneries, these relaxing towns. So we consume it in a positive note, per se. So we always talked about this good stories, this nice to hear stories about the fishing villages. But if you look at their life satisfaction, it's really low compared to other rural areas, and their population extinction index is the highest. The island fishing villages will go extinct fastest out of all these rural areas. So if we want to maintain this fishing village identity or likeness, we need to make sure that these local people can live there and make their ends meet. Of course, we go there for travel and for tourist attractions, but at the same time, when we travel there, we need to help these local fishing villages so that they can keep on living in those fishing villages. We can't just keep promoting and advertising all of this big catch, good haul. Because in 20 years, the fishing villages that we see today may not be there anymore. I'm really concerned about this. So what I am doing is to create a documentary that doesn't really focus on the traditional concept of fishing villages, but rather their difficulty, their issues, and what they want to see improve. So I went on an interviews for the past 3 months, and we're on the final editing stage, and it will be broadcasted on the Gyeongnam KBS soon. I wanted to come with a preview clip for today's forum, and I wanted to show you what KBS was doing to that extent, but we could not finish the editing, so I cannot show you a preview today, unfortunately. But when I accepted the offer to participate in this forum, I wanted to show all of the people that I was trying to expose the downsides of these fishing villages. But after a long time of thinking, it's really important for us to not ignore these downsides. So thank you for your